Hi, I'm MaryAnn. I am a self-taught visual artist and I have been professional for about 10 years now. The whole artist journey that I'm on so far, maybe about 12 years. I can still remember 12 years ago when I was just starting out, there was just so much confusion and didn't know what I was doing, didn't know where to start. And in this video, I'm going to share 3 things that I wish that I had known when I was starting out as a self-taught artist. So a little bit of my background, I'm from Singapore, and in 2008 to 2011 I spent 3 years in a university in the US studying music business and songwriting. In my last semester I felt that that wasn't like the right path for me, so I was exploring other options and I took a few classes outside of my major, and one of those classes was Introduction to Drawing. So in that class we did explore charcoal, graphite pencils, and also a little bit of acrylics and ink. So I didn't have like a whole lot as a starting point when I decided that I wanted to actually become an artist. And then I moved to New York right after university for a year, and that's pretty much like where I started to get very confused and overwhelmed, and I started thinking that as a visual artist I needed to know like all kinds of different media. So I went to the art shop and I basically bought pastels, color pencils. I think I bought more acrylic paints and also more inks. And then I came home with all these materials, and every single day when I decided that I needed to start drawing something, I would just get stuck there because I didn't know what to begin with or where to even start, because basically I was just spoiled for choice. Okay, so if I could go back now and like redo all of that, I would have just stuck with what I already knew. So the first thing that I wish that I had known back then was to just keep things simple for yourself. Start with a media that you're already comfortable with, that you know a little bit about using, and just go from there. You don't feel that you have to start picking up every single material possible. There's always plenty of time for that later on. What's more important is for you to actually start establishing a habit of showing up at your creative space to consistently work on your craft and consistently work on your skill. It's only in the process of making more art. When I say making art, I just mean showing up and, for your practice. The more important thing is for you to show up consistently. And in order to show up consistently and to do something in that time that you have, because you may not have a lot of time, you might just only be able to do something for 15 minutes, half an hour a day, for instance. Keep it simple for yourself. Use something that you have already some experience in and work from there. It did take me a while to figure that out, and then because I had already bought like all these materials, they were just like not being used at all. It was a little bit of a waste of money, and because after that I had to move back to Singapore, and so I basically shipped all those things back to Singapore, which cost money. So if I had known then, I would have saved that money by not buying the materials I wasn't sure about yet and just focused on what I was already comfortable with. Making it easy for yourself to get started on developing that creative habit by just using materials that you're already comfortable with, and that the barriers of entry to actually get started are a lot lower, at least in the external reality, because of course internally you might have all these voices of saying that you're not good enough and blah blah blah. I mean, I totally had that as well. Then the second thing that I wish that I had known is that when you're starting out as an artist, you don't actually have to have some sort of like, profound message or like a statement or, something artsy that you need to like be exploring in your work. When you're starting out, a lot of times you're still getting the hang of your materials, you're still getting the hang of what are the themes and the subject matter that you like to draw or to craft. So there's really no need to come up with like, a whole the well thought out idea of what your art is going to be. Just start with what makes you happy, start with what you love, because ultimately art is really just about expressing yourself. It's a personal journey to you as the artist, And it always starts from expressing something that is of interest to you, something that you love, something that you're passionate about, something that excites you. So start from there. And that's really the most important thing, that you love and enjoy what you're making and the process of it. If there are any recurring themes or recurring ideas that will emerge in your art, they will naturally emerge the more you show up and do the work. So the third thing that I wish that I had known when I was just starting out as a self-taught artist is to consistently post whatever I'm doing on social media. I know this is a very iffy thing to do, especially when you're starting out, because there's this fear that what you're creating isn't good enough, and when you put it out there, people are going to judge your work. And yes, it is a very huge, risky thing to share your work and put it out there. But here's why I say that it is important. If you want to be an artist, okay, and I don't mean like a hobby artist, of course, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. But if you actually want to be an artist who would eventually exhibit your work and show your work and, maybe get hired for your art, then you have to actually get used to start sharing your work even when you feel that it's not quite good enough yet. Learning to share your work is a very important part of the process. And the sooner you get used to that sharing process and fold it into your creative practice, the easier it becomes over time for you to share your work and to talk about it and to be able to tell a story using your work as the basis. So the thing with social media, it is that it is a long game. It's not a sprint. It's not something that you can just post whenever you feel like and expect to see results down the line. This is something that I still struggle with even until today. I am really not very consistent on social media, and I'm still learning how to be more consistent on social media and figuring out the best way for me to do that. But basically, the key thing here again is consistency. What a lot of people would recommend is that if you want to build an audience over time, it's best to post something at least once a day, twice a day if you can. But I can tell you that's a lot of work. Pick something that works for you and just keep that up. So if it's once a week, just make sure that it is once a week and you keep doing that. And what happens over time is that if you can do this consistently, you start building your audience. You start noticing, who are the kinds of people who are attracted to your work, and that allows you further down the line later on, if you decide to make a living of your art, then you would be better able to know how to market your work and how to sell your work and how to talk about it such that people would hire you or buy your work. So don't feel that you have to share everything, because ultimately, of course, you share whatever you're comfortable with. The more you share, the more you'll figure out how to go about sharing about your work. It's a process that you just have to show up and do it. It's not that much different from you showing up to actually make your art, because the more you make, the more you understand what it's about and the themes start to emerge. So in the same way, the more you share on social media, the more you get clarity also about what your work is about and how to go about sharing it. What are the themes and stories that are in there that you can share with people, and you can also see who's resonating with it and get some feedback from the audience as well. Another reason why sharing on social media is a practice that you should start as soon as possible, as you can early on in your career, is also a way for you to connect with other artists who are kind of in the same stage of your journey with you. It might be really difficult to find people who are in the same stage of your journey in your immediate vicinity, depending on where you live. And I can tell you, even in bigger cities, it still can be quite hard to find such individuals. So the best place to look for them really is online. It's on social media, especially now with how interconnected the world is. And when you start posting your work more on social media, you would also better be able to find other like-minded artists who are in the same stage of their journey as you, or maybe even slightly further down the journey than you, and you can learn from them, and you can also maybe even guide someone who is newer than you are. Over time, you might even find some friends, some artist friends that you would never have met if you didn't put yourself and your work out there. So that's what I can recommend when it comes to social media, just being consistent about it and according to what works for you based on your schedule and how comfortable you are with being on it. So to sum up this video, the 3 things that I wish that I had known when I was starting out as a self-taught artist. Number 1, when it comes to your material, start with what you're already comfortable with, start with what you already know, and don't make things complicated for yourself. Like, keep the process as simple as possible so that there's a lot less barriers to entry when it comes to you showing up for your consistent creative practice. Number 2, art is really just about you expressing yourself, so there are really no rules around what you can express or what you should or shouldn't express. So don't worry about trying to come up with some sort of profound message or some, commentary on your art. Just create based on what you love, what matters to you, what you wish to express in this moment. And over time, the more you create, the themes and the story and whatever it is that you are trying to express in your work will become a lot clearer to you. Number 3, start sharing your work on social media as soon as you can and be consistent about it according to what's comfortable for you. The more you share your work, the more you get used to talking about it and figuring out what your work is really about. And it doesn't matter whether you feel that your work is terrible at this moment. You can still control the narrative of what you want to share, but it's only when you actually do it then you can best figure out how to go about doing it in the long run. So those are 3 more things that I wish that I had known when I was starting out as a self-taught artist. And if you have any questions about them, feel free to ask in the comments, or if you want more clarification on something or another video with more specific tips about one of these things that I've talked about, feel free to share them in the comments and ask me in the comments, and I will make a new video to talk about them. Ultimately, your artist journey is very unique to you, and only you know what is best for you in your situation. So whatever I'm sharing, it's just what I have learned and what I've experienced, and I hope that it helps you as you figure out your own path and your own journey and gives you some insight into what this process might be like for you. So subscribe to my channel for more videos on how to go about crafting the best art journey and art career for you, and I will see you soon.